before we are like internationally. Because it is limited due to the international program. I won't be saying too much about the festival itself, except that it's awesome. And you should check it out. It's running until the 20th, I think, for November. Every day it's hosted in a different country, in a different city, from Seoul, South Korea, to Brasilia in Brazil, and Sofia and Pristina. So there's a lot of really cool things going on. And I think we can officially start, can we? Yay! Welcome to Queer Autonomy for Palestine. Welcome to Sofia in Bulgaria, where we are super lucky to be able to even be together, even just a few of us. So thank you to everyone who's here. It's really special for us. We really didn't want it to be online only. And thank you to everyone who's watching, to everyone who made this program possible, who encouraged us to do this, and special thank you to our friends in Edinburgh and Scotland for hosting a screening party of this event today over there by the Bulgarian Society, who, we see a lot of different venues of solidarity happening between Bulgaria and Palestine and queers all around the world. So it's really exciting, it's really special. Say a bit about the space we're in. We're in fabrika.avtonomia, which is basically a self-organized space. You can check out a little bit about what it looks like. And everything here is a kind of donation and a gift from the people who make it happen. You can learn more about fabrika.avtonomia on the Facebook page, the website, and so on. And it's totally in the spirit of solidarity, international, social liberation, justice, and everything. And Violetki Collective, who we are organizing this event today together with Queer Cinema for Palestine, is also an autonomous collective. We are queer, feminist, anarchist, and vegan. And I won't say much more about that. To spark your curiosity, to check us out online. We're on Instagram and on Patreon. And we will be in the program as well with our own entry. So our version of Queer Cinema for Palestine is a little bit different. It's a little bit more DIY at times. Our idea was to combine socially engaged art with also art for art's sake that still stands in solidarity with these important causes, because we think both are super important. And we really want to hear your thoughts. That's what we're all about, sharing, exchanging, and seeing how it influences us to think about all of these issues, and in the theme around solidarity with Palestine and what's going on there. So, maybe someone else from the collective wants to add something to that. Feel free.
Just about the format of the screening, we have 10 films, and it's worked really nice in the past couple of editions, that instead of showing all the films and then having a discussion, because they're short and you kind of forget, it's nice to just have a discussion straight after we see each film. So we're going to have, the runtime for the 10 films is like 50 minutes in total. Since our event has to be like 2 hours total, we're going to have kind of like limited time discussions after each film. So maybe like, did we say how long?
5 to 10 minutes,
like
depending on how it goes.
Like 10 films, 5 minutes each.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the filmmakers are here, so you can also ask them questions.
And also, I'm basically live streaming this, so if anyone doesn't want to be on camera, please let me know and I will not film you during the discussions. Is that okay? So everyone's cool with like being filmed? Okay, cool.
I have one last thing to say. Right now we have a very sensitive situation here in Bulgaria with a lot of homophobic attacks, and we can see the uprising of the fascists. So this event is super important to happen, and I'm very happy to see some people here. So I hope that we won't give the fear to get power over us, and we will fight for our rights to create art, to exist, and we are gonna heal together and get stronger.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Maybe for the international audience to share what's been going on here just a little bit is that recently there have been physical Nazi attacks on queer folks and anti-fascists. The last one was last night, where 2 people were hospitalized because they were attacked by Nazis. 2 teenagers, in fact, a 15-year-old and a slightly older teenager. And before that, another community center, an LGBTQIA community center, was attacked, trashed, and a woman was assaulted. So we really feel very deeply the connection and the solidarity internationally with all queer folks and all people who are being oppressed and threatened, assaulted, and kicked out of their spaces and made to feel like they don't belong and they aren't part of society. So we're going to talk about that probably today, but the main point of these films is also to remind ourselves that there is beauty, there is art, and it's an important tool for us. So, without further ado, I think we're ready to go. Yeah.
Sure.
Started injured by the nah, as as a 3 months, I think they're here. They're coming then going back, coming then going back again. They are distributing lunch at the moment.
Hi, Julie. Nice to live with you.
forgot to mention earlier, also a big thank you to our subtitlers, because it was a big job to make subtitles for all the movies in English and Bulgarian. So thank you very much to Rio and Irina. It was also really great to be able to support people from the community to be involved in this. Also thanks to Queer Cinema for Palestine. So our first artist is here. Actually, this was, I believe, a trailer for a longer film, which we have projected before, so some of you might have seen it, possibly the movie I Wish I Was a Bird. Since our co-producer slash editor is also our current tech person, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
Wears many hats.
Masks. Yeah. In 2019, me and Andrea were in Thessaloniki, like volunteering with the kitchen that was like autonomous, self-organized to just feed refugees on the one hand on the street, and just like anyone, I guess, who wanted food on the street, homeless people. And there I met Ali, who later was just like shooting videos and posting them on his Facebook, and like writing things about his situation, because he was a refugee from Iran, and he was also there kind of stuck, he can't get asylum. He tried to cross the border, that didn't work. So he was just kind of there and like volunteering with everyone else, trying to help the others who are trying to cross illegally the border. And yeah, when we left Thessaloniki, we just kept in touch on Facebook, and I saw all this stuff and put it together in a documentary. So
And
you
the
can watch
document-
the full one. It's free online. It's like 40 minutes long. It's on YouTube. Just like I Wish I Was a Bird 2019.
If anyone wants to share comments, impressions, or questions, please feel free. Break the ice for everybody else so we can have a nice chat. And if not, oh, we have a question.
I don't have a question. I have like a comment about it. I think it was. Huh?
Speak of the side.
Yeah. I think it was great because it also had included children, and when we're talking about issues, we usually forget that they are, in a way, very affected, not only not only because they are the future, but because this is the way that they learn that life is. And it's great for us to sometimes remind ourselves that children are being also part of something that they have no control over.
Yeah, actually, Ali mostly shot kids, like, because he got along really well with kids, and it was really fun. Like, he was always dressing in the most ridiculous ways so that he can entertain the kids. In the movie, you can see him in all these like clownish, colorful outfits, and he's always like making jokes and like playing with the kids and like wondering how to entertain them. He had this little project where they kept asking him for chocolate, so he was like, just like tried to ask on Facebook if anyone can like donate some chocolate or money. And then some like Germans drove a whole fucking van full of chocolate from Germany, and then the kids could have like chocolate every day.
That is amazing.
So yeah, I think his focus was very much the kids.
Okay.
On to the next one.
But the amazing thing is, all these different plants and creatures, and even you and I, started life in much the same way.
懂你的感受，因为我也曾经经历过满足的实力，让我直直啊斗断那些动物的痛。我怎么想也想不通，为了满足你的胃要消灭多少物种？你有想过吗？还是你大脑根本没在用？你有试过吗？还是你根本是在找借口？真的很难吗？到底他妈是有多难？那割开喉咙是否你就不要撇头？人类有病也不是一天两天的事情，动物囚禁更不再判处他们死刑。如果真是有命，那也不是你决定。如果真的有心，就跟着一起觉醒。No mercy， 灭了暴力残杀 No mercy， 为了找回正义，所以出现 Mercury so crazy， 人类肉是爆炸 so crazy， 牵着你们也只是刚好而已。Bloody hell, bloody rain, our bloody stain. We don't need to stay on this murderous train.
인생은 원래 불공평한 거라고, 세상은 언제나 이랬고 이럴 거라고. 당신이 그들의 상황에 처한다 해도 과연 현실에 안주하고 있을까? 입 닥치고 누가 내 이빨을 자르고 입술을 지지고 부드러운 육질을 위해 내 족을 떼어내도 누가 강간당하던 새끼와 젖을 빼앗기던 중요한 건 개인적 선택과 자유로운 태도. 가해자의 시선, 위선 변명과 정당화가 내 수준에 딱 맞는 건 이해한다만 너의 무지, 외면과 침묵에 따르는 희생은 내가 말하는 평화와는 정반대란다. 칼과 돈으로 무장해 전능하고 전능하신 인간들의 욕심은 과연 어디까진가? 가져선 안 될 힘과 권력을 못 내려놔 조상님과 전통이 나오는 하는 꼴을 봐.
只有轮回几个世纪，这游戏未免太过刺激。可惜曾看见真相的不是你，否则你将理解我的质疑。这是一场革命，
혁명의 시간이 오지，
治好人类的病，
인간의 중독을 고치。
因为这是一场革命，林北没在客气，实在看不下去，所以骂了这里，但实际没有恶意。
판단하려는 의도는 없지만
觉得你们恶心，
내 식탁 위에 놓인 누군가의 사체가 어떻게 거기까지 왔는지 뇌가 있다면 생각이란 걸 해봐. 노예와 계급제도, 식민지 대량 학살, 인간에게만 적용되는 옳고 그름의 판단. 세상에서 제일 추악한 인간, 동물이 다른 종을 어찌 인간적으로 죽일지 고민한다.
Bloody hell, bloody rain, our bloody stain. We don't need to stay on this murderous train.
Their own thing.
So I need time to switch.
Okay.
So now it should go.
We're on? Okay. I was just giving some context that this was a music video we did for our friend Haru, whose film is also in the program later on. And I'm mostly curious to hear what people think who haven't seen it before, because I have a lot of thoughts about how it connects to our theme today and why we're here, but I'm really curious how others see it. I've seen it many times.
Yeah. Okay, the people from the live stream are saying it's a bit quiet, so we might have to be a bit louder for them. Just saying.
We'll try.
Yes, I can turn it up more.
Okay.
Okay, this is the max.
Cool.
So is the movie that is going to follow on the same topic, just a longer version of this music video, or is it just totally different?
The next movie is different.
No, from the same.
From the same person, Haru. The next one is kind of like a documentary.
Or is it on the same topic?
Different topics, but yeah, including also some vegan topics.
And what was the language? I didn't recognize.
Korean.
Yeah.
Korean.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that it's very good, but definitely a language barrier. These are complex topics, and rapping about it, it has a language barrier to it. I want to like spend 5 minutes on each sentence, you know.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a very good short movie, music video. Is it only about cruelty against animals, or is it also about just more than that? Because that's basically what it means.
I guess the main thing for us was the ways in which animals fight for their freedom, and the ways in which animals resist being exploited. So even animals which we typically consider very calm and gentle, like cows, can be I don't know what word to use, but
Violent.
Yeah.
If you ask other people, they would say that this is violence. When, for example, we have the circus animal attacking the human, but we don't consider what the humans do to the animals violence until they fight back. And I think that's a big theme that connects also to struggles of oppressed peoples for liberation as well. So we have very similar narratives that we hear. Kali, you had a hand up?
Yeah, so we didn't want to show only the animals as a victim of a violence, but as well as a being which can rebel and fight for its freedom.
yeah, like this idea that animals aren't passive, but they're quite active agents in their own liberation, basically. And we really liked these kind of cartoons where like animals are like helping each other, and you have this little bit of a cartoon which was from Animal Farm actually at the end, where like these birds go and they like open the cage of these other birds and the birds fly away, and we really like that, but also to show real life examples where animals are like escaping labs and zoos and farms, and like they said before, like self-defense, I guess, against humans who are abusing them. And yeah, just kind of changing this idea that animals are passive and whatever we do to them is fine. They're actually fighting for their freedom all the time, basically, in much similar ways in which, similar to how humans are also fighting for their freedom.
I think that message was represented in the video very well, because while I was watching it, was exactly what I was thinking is, oh, I love these shots of animals attacking people, get those assholes. So yeah, you did a very good job at presenting exactly that message.
Yay.
Yeah, it was really empowering. It also kind of shifts to like, also like our role within this is that we're working with animals for their liberation instead of like for them, or like as if, I guess if you no longer see them as passive, you're no longer trying to like save something that is like completely victimized, but it's almost like in human rights we talk about, you know, humanizing, and I don't know what the animal version would be of that word. But it's like animalizing, like returning kind of their autonomy to them through this thing. It was really cool, and it was really well put together, super smooth, and really strong narrative of kind of showing these moments of fear and oppression, and then like moving into this really strong sense of empowerment. So
yeah, and visually it's very strong, and the editing is very frantic. So like if you are watching it, you feel something. You are felt compelled to take some action.
Wow, thank you. It's really nice to hear. Thank you. Okay.
I definitely think because of the subtitles, it's something that you kind of have to watch twice if you want to like register the song as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What's next, Ayamaya? Oops.
Νυχτώνει. Τώρα βουτάω στη θάλασσα. Τώρα δεν μας βλέπει κανένας. Τώρα είμαι μόνο εγώ και εσύ. Βουτάω γυμνός, χωρίς καμιά πατρίδα, χωρίς καμιά ταυτότητα. Να γίνω θάλασσα μαζί σου. Η θάλασσα δεν καταλαβαίνει από σύνορα. Τα σύνορα είναι για τη στεριά. Όχι. Λάθος. Τα σύνορα είναι για τους φτωχούς. Αλλά εμείς είμαστε ελεύθεροι. Στον πάτο της θάλασσας σε πλησιάζω και σου δίνω το φιλί της ζωής. Γίνομαι ένα μαζί σου. Σε βλέπω πρώτη φορά και γίνομαι ένα μαζί σου. Σου δίνω το φιλί της ζωής. Σου δίνω το φιλί της ζωής. Από πού έρχεσαι? Κολύμπησες ως εδώ. Τι μάτια είναι αυτά? Με ποιο δικαίωμα έχεις τόσο ωραία μάτια? Σχεδόν πνίγεσαι και μου χαμογελάς. Έτσι κάνουνε στα μέρη σου. Σου δίνω το φιλί της ζωής. Και εγώ κανένας είμαι. Ο κόσμος καίγεται και εγώ σου δίνω το φιλί της ζωής. Άσε με να σε τραβήξω στη στεριά. Άσε με να σε αγγίξω. Τώρα δεν μας βλέπει κανένας. Όμως εσύ με τραβάς στο βυθό. Κι εγώ σ' ακολουθώ. Είμαστε ένα. Αγκαλιά. Είναι ήσυχα εδώ. Ανοίγω το σώμα μου. Μπαίνεις μέσα μου. Το κάνεις φωλιά. Το κάνεις ηθάκι σου. Στάζεις πάνω μου νερό κι ανθίζω καρπούς αγάπης. Τώρα πια είμαι η ηθάκι. Τώρα πια είμαι η ηθάκι.
So from now on, I'm going to have to pass the phone to each person like it's a microphone, because people on the other side can't hear anything. So is that okay? You don't have to film anything. I'm just going to give it to you and you're going to hold it.
You can film yourself, you can film.
Oh yeah, I'm just going to
You can take
Okay, we're not doing that. You're just going to hold it as a microphone. Okay. Okay.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce the director for you. And this is what he says about himself. A friend of mine said, I make art installation films, and I like that description. I haven't formally studied directing, but I love holding a camera. I'm a sucker for dogme style, but I'll add my name to the credits as director.
What is that? Dogme style?
I've never heard of dogme style.
95 is like a manifesto by like Lars von Trier and some other filmmakers, and they're all like no fake shit, just we're very like, I don't want to get this. It's very like
okay, so Lars von Trier dogma. Okay, it's a Lars von Trier thing, like
yeah, it's only natural lighting, only.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the explanation, because I didn't know about it.
So unfortunately they can't be here, but I'm sure they would love to hear about your thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really beautiful, especially the poem itself. Yeah. We have a hat.
I think it's also interesting to think. What? I know I'm holding it. I am aware. I think it's really interesting to think about also. What?
Maybe the microphone is up and then.
Okay, look, just hold it like perfect.
The relationship between the video and the poem itself, because for me it's kind of like a mystical unclarity of, like, he's kind of narrating this story with you, the person who's watching, but is the video connected to before, after? Is it? I felt like it was all of it. Like, I felt like it was in all of the timelines that it could be, where you're in the water with this person, or you're crawling out of the water with this person, but at the same time, somehow it's like maybe after the story that he's told, and he's telling it afterwards. Yeah, so that's my only comment, is like relationship between the film itself and the poem and the timeline is really interesting to me.
Okay, on a darker note, by the fact that they're on the bottom of the ocean, or the fact that he's holding the jacket, which I suppose is belongs to his lover. I think they're dead, or one of them is dead. Or this is the impression I got from the video. Yeah, someone else.
Did you read the synopsis?
No, I think I should read the synopsis. Can you read it louder? Louder. You want to comment? Yes. Sure.
So the video starts with this escape from formality. We see the very strong symbolism of the church and the army, which are strongly connected with this society that gives you some kind of roles that we have to play and tells us who we have to be and what we have to do. And the first thing that we see is that he desperately wants to escape from all of this formality and find himself, but he's faced with this not knowing what to do and how to do this. And this entire metaphor of the sea is almost like the inevitability of his situation, which he doesn't know what to do, and the sea itself represents this giant abyss that he feels that he is going to like fall into, and that's his only option. But in that abyss, there is his only hope of truly finding himself. And when he then we have the second act in which he finds a soulmate, so to speak, in that abyss where there is no formality, there is no roles that the society is given to us. It's just this humongous, is that what's the word? Yes, that everything is the same and we all connect to each other. And he finds his soulmate with which he finally finds his own face, literally, as his entire face is covered throughout the entirety of the video, and in the very last moments that we truly see him for who he is, and that's because he discovers who he is in reality when he comes out of the sea, so to speak. So the last really frames are really strong, that he had to escape all of this formality and literally risk his own life in the abyss to truly find himself. And then we see the different symbolism of the leather jacket, which we can literally interpret as a second skin, and the military jacket, which is again the formality of the society telling him who he has to be and what he has to do. And also the first act, we can discuss as well how hard it is for him to make this choice, because no matter who you are and where you're born, you have some kind of a love for your own nation, for your country, and so on. And at some point he feels somewhat betrayed by this, and he has to abandon that problem. So that's really strong. So that's what I saw. Yes, of course.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting that you say this about the nation, because for me it was like this interpretation, he even said it, like the sea has no borders, and so for me that was like a really important message, that yeah, using the water is like this, and I guess also this idea that borders could be between people as well. And then he says like, then my body became your body and you came to live inside of my body, and I thought that was so beautiful, just about love in general, like how people can like live inside of you, and there are no borders in between people, and there is no borders in nature, and there is no borders in the sea, and that's kind of what I took from it, I guess.
Yes, absolutely, yes, I agree.
Before I read the synopsis, I also wanted to comment quickly that like I really liked the moment where they said, "You almost drown and you're smiling at me." And it's like, is that a custom where you come from? And I think it speaks a lot to a lot of these places where people have gone through this collective trauma, war, things like that, who like, wow, how dare you have kindness left? How can you have like goodness left inside of you? And I think it was really beautifully put. And just so we have the director's comment as well, their synopsis goes as follows. This poem is for you, you who were found washed ashore on the island I was sworn to protect. You who crossed my border. You who showed me the bittersweet taste of drowning at sea. I am sinking now, drowning in your eyes, naked, stripped of my identities, my prejudices, my defenses. I am sinking now, drowning in love. Very poetic. Okay, so with that, I think.
Did anyone else want to say something else?
Something quick, so we can. Yeah.
I really liked how erotic it was, and and like it's nice to see like masculine love and just this vulnerability. It was great.
So next we have Hexixie.
Do you want to
Cool. It was so beautiful. Actually, it's really interesting that we didn't do it on purpose, but it's because it's after the film that we saw previously, and you are both using your bodies against this very like neutral background. I thought that was really interesting, and very minimal use of like props, I guess, and mise en scène, and like just using your bodies. But I wanted to ask you, because I know you make masks, like you make a lot of masks, and I wanted to ask you like, why are masks interesting to you, or like maybe you can tell us like why you like masks.
I have the same question.
Very simple answer. The answer is it's actually a comfort thing. I'm not really comfortable with performing in front of people or even talking in front of people, so the masks were like a coping thing. I hide myself, and my art is very visual and silent, and so that way I have the full freedom of doing whatever I want, whereas if I'm myself, it's gonna be, maybe I just won't do it at all. So yeah, that's how the whole masks thing started.
I have a question. What was the third and fourth objects after the syringe?
Yeah, same question.
Small.
There was a circuit board thing, a piece of circuit board, and some dead butterflies.
Some dead butterflies.
The ones in the end were butterflies, yeah.
It's interesting you said about silent as well, because the first version of the film I saw, it didn't have sound. And then you send it with sound, but I actually thought it was a silent film at first, and I was like, that's so cool, it's a silent film, I love it. It works. Yeah, like it really works. And then I love the music as well, but it actually really works without sound as well.
Can I just add to that when I was watching it just now with the sound, I watched it for the first time, I thought how much it reminds me of these kind of 20s silent films, even with the sound. I think because of the way it was cut, this like jumpy cut, and I really like that because I think it looks very kind of sweet and also accessible, you know, like not this perfection and stuff, but actually like intentionally jumpy, and I think that was really cool.
I like how in the subtitles somebody specified bass music, because I play it myself on a bass guitar.
Nice.
My skills with the bass guitar are just as limited as with filmmaking. I started learning this year. As for the filmmaking, I have a tripod, a phone, and zero knowledge of what I'm doing. Everything is done on impulse.
Perfect.
But I like this kind of chaotic mess where you just try to do what's in your head with whatever skill you have, and you know, skill shouldn't really be a limit. You learn as you go. I'm making something, so
that's the theme of this festival.
Can you pass the phone, because they're not going to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I kinda I don't know what was the meaning, but I can guess, and you can say if it's right. I think it kind of shows the movie how sometimes the artist becomes their own art, like your body is like covered in paint and you wear a mask. I know like it's more of an anxiety issue, but I interpret it as like you lose yourself in your art, and you are it at one point, and I don't know if that's correct and if that's what you meant, but certainly I liked this video, and it was very cool.
thank you. And that's right on with the topic. It's that's why I went for immersion with.
She's speaking. Can you get close to Magda?
Yeah. So immersion is in immersing yourself in your art, and for me, part of the mask thing is before I started wearing masks, the faces that I was drawing, because I started off as a painter, they look exactly like the masks I make. So it's kind of the faces that I used to draw are now on my face, and yeah, there's this whole cycle of when you paint, you think you're putting the visuals that are in your head into reality, but then they influence you back and you start becoming like them, and it's a who made who situation. So yeah, that's the whole idea of it.
Again, no borders. No borders between like the art and you. Like, it's all part of it.
See, that's why I wanted to speak before, because I was going to say this, and it's very easy for you who are the artists to say it, but you know, we have to interpret it. It's better for us. You know, art is about being understood by the audience without the artist having to explain it. But yes, I was going to say that that's how I interpreted it as well. You know, we have the first frames in which you draw basic lines. So this is the beginning of your art career, and then we have the very interesting visuals of you touching a spot and your hand changes. So you create art, but everything you touch changes you and you change it back. So this kind of a connection. And then we have the interesting act of you drawing without touching, but just with your expression. So that's very interesting, because art doesn't have to be that much physical thing in which you have to particularly just draw something. It's much more than that, and at least that I kind of interpret it in a way. And then we have the immersion in your art, in which you become part of the painting, and it changes you and you change it back. So once an artist starts creating, it's not just sending the message out there towards your audience, but it's also the art you create changes you as a person, who you are. It gives back to you, and it's two-way kind of a relationship. And then we have the final images of the heart, which is, you know, as you're the artist, we can say it's probably your heart. And in your heart is, first of all, very interesting, the key to your heart, or you know, let's say human heart. Okay, let's say human heart. So the key to the human heart is inside the human heart, which is a very kind of also philosophical question. I mean, can someone influence us on the outside? Not only when we allow it from our inside, maybe. I don't know. That's how I interpreted it. And then the second object is the syringe, which is kind of probably abusive relationship or something. That's very wide, open to wide interpretations. And then we have the pure computing power of the computer board, which is just symbolizing very straightforward, logical thinking. That, you know, it's a good thing to have that. And in the end, we have the dead butterflies, which can symbolize the death of beauty in itself. Which I personally do not know how to interpret, but I.
Sorry, just so we can continue because of the time.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I really like your critical analysis of all of the films, and I definitely would love if you could write some of them down. It would be great for us to share as well. But okay, for now. We need to continue. We have some slightly longer films as well.
Short comments about this?
Just very short. Someone else wants to throw in something. If not, we are continuing with Voin Devine, who is a local artist. And Kali wants to say something?
They just texted me that we have some technical problem and the live streaming fixed it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
I just wanted to say that from my perspective, all I can see is your hands and they're really pretty.
What do you mean? All you can see?
No, it's like
Can you ask them? Say hello to the people.
Hello, can anyone hear us? They say it's stuck on the logo.
What is it? Can you say hello to them?
Hello.
Can you see us? Nia says no.
No.
That's their problem, because here I can see.
Okay, everything is fine. Everything is fine. We're good. We're good. Next movie.
On to Food Europa.
The end.
Access denied. Access denied.
So that was Futuropa or Futuropa.
You can read the synopsis.
By Vine. Yeah, let's read the synopsis. So, Futuropa is an installment in Vojno's study of psychogeography, which examines the construction of a new European identity. The project stems from Vojno's experience as a Bulgarian and as a former illegal immigrant of Western Europe. His body, a human compass, has become the axis point of those two geographical linear directions, east and west. It is through this personal history, incorporating his practice in performance, installation, and video, that the project commences. So, what do you think? Would be nice to hear from those of you who haven't shared yet as well. Very cool.
We have a very cool comment.
Okay, I can break the ice a bit for you because I was really thinking this last scene with the money and stuff, how it really looked like they were on drugs, like they were so intoxicated by this money, and it made me think about, yeah, how money has that effect on people, especially the people with a bit too much of it maybe. And it becomes like it's like consuming.
I actually found it sorry. I actually find it very interesting. Like, it was a performance, but at the same time a sketch, and there are very interesting contrasting images. Like, there is like this thing of them putting money and like reaching this ecstasy, like kind of a capitalist nirvana, you know, with the meditation songs behind, like saying, you know, this maximum spirituality. Oh, sorry.
Again, just move.
Let's just move it. Okay. Sorry, I'm not such a good cameraman, but I'll try. Yeah. So there was this image, like this contrast that is very interesting. Is like you get high out of capitalist and money. Like the enlightenment you get is like how rich you are in those kind of societies. And honestly, I found it really fun, especially in the beginning when the guy is like doing exercises. At least I felt like that, like it was kind of a deconstruction or a mockery or of this kind of images you have in sports, you know, like you have this kind of macho images, so on. And I really like the way he deconstructed it in a very funny way, like you know, with high heels, like I like the chain attached to the ball, like you are attached to this kind of image you have to transmit. So it's like I really like a lot this installation. At the same time, it reminded me a lot of the sketches of Monty Python. It's like honestly, if I can, I will rewatch this more times because this one was really fun. It was very well made points. Oh, there you go.
As someone who doesn't watch soccer or football, I remember the first time that I learned that the people who play in football teams don't have to be from the country that they're playing for. That was so crazy to me, and there is something, I don't know, that kind of made me think of it in this film, like where he's playing both roles, both East and West, and he's kind of like, he's both an immigrant and also from the East, and kind of representing that dynamic of like, what are we, like, what is this fight about, you know, like these people aren't from these places. And the chain, I thought of just from like a very practical perspective of if he was actually kicking the ball, it would go out of camera, like out of the shot, and that it was kind of like a very practical, like it will stay in the shot kind of situation.
Yeah, the whole thing to me was like the pointless chase for money. You know, like the competition didn't have a point. Like they were trying to kick the ball, they were trying to reach a goal, but it was tied to their legs. So I think it illustrates how like some people make their life like a chase for money and like capitalism. But in the end, we all see how pointless it is, and they made it like a sport or something, and it has no winner in the end. Maybe it's only nature who suffers.
I really liked the religion rhythm which we heard, because like we kind of forget that capitalism, it's a doctrine, and we are really getting into that thing, and we are yeah, there is a whole religion which is creating, and we all believe in it. So yeah, I really like that meditation about the money, the Jesus, which was repeating all the time. It was very cool, and I'm very happy that we have some comedy to watch on that event, because like the topic is very depressing and hard, and yeah, I'm happy that we had something funny to watch.
You wanna? I can film.
So first of all, Voin de Voin, absolutely amazing, brilliant. Second of all, he needs to find better operators, because it's horribly filmed. We can have a discussion about the symbolics and frame by frame of the film, and then we can have like a totally different discussions about art and context, in my opinion, because
we only have 5 minutes though.
Yes, I know. So I have one interpretation of this movie, and then when I heard the synopsis, totally different interpretation. Both very important, actually. So probably both very important. So the main topic of this is artist exploitation. That's pretty obvious. So we have Voin de Voin, who is both East and West, representing both the Balkan artist community probably and the Western artist community, in which he is both part of. And it's a farce on the idea that the community is somehow different or doing something different, because once the match starts, we can see that they're both doing the same thing, and it's both kind of ridiculous, because the chain that's connected to the ball represents that and the high heels represents that they're being pulled back by the I don't know, society, or the greed of the people who are controlling this entire industry. We see them before the game starts, and they're warriors. We see the serious music. We see them stretching, and they're ready for battle. When you're prepared for some high, very impact heavy, just sportsmanship, you know. But once the game starts, it's all ridiculous because they're handicapped. They're literally handicapped by the greed of these high-end people that are pulling them back. And only when the artists goes through rebirth and becomes a money tree, that's when these high-end people start having interest in literally feeding on him and going into some kind of orgasm or something. Yes, it's very heavy.
I was filming. I was like, this time I watched it for like the second time, I guess, and I like the thing you said, how the artist gets like reborn by jumping on that bubble in the end, and then afterwards becomes this almost like transcendental being that is kind of like a money tree. It reminded me of that character in Princess Mononoke, the deer, like the deer in the wood, which was kind of represented like the spirit of the woods, I guess, and how there were all these human characters who wanted to like kill the deer and like get the head and like kill the forest, and yeah, it just reminded me of that, of this kind of like purity being that is being kind of exploited by people. So I like that as well.
I wanted to go off from something. To something that was already said about the East and the West and the football match, and I really like the parallel between the football match and all the fans being like crazily hyped behind it, with the parallel with the politicians. And I think it's a very appropriate parallel between how people in nationalistic conflicts act towards each other, with this hive mind type enthusiasm behind their nationality, as if it's a team sport and they have to support it no matter what happens. And I think that can also be related to a lot of the conflicts and different international tensions like this. I also wanted to say about the different that they need a better operator, a film director, because I actually really liked it, and I was gonna say when someone compared it to Monty Python that they had a great director. I was gonna say, and no, I think it's just something to keep in mind, that you don't necessarily need to have all the proper skills and aesthetic to creating a work of art that's really meaningful and that can like bring up all these topics and can still be fun and enjoyed by people. And that's kind of what we're also trying to show with our open calls to anyone and everyone who's had no experience or no shows before, to remind ourselves of this. And this is my segue into our next video that we're gonna watch, which is very DIY, and I'm really excited about it, and it should also be fun and taken lightly. So yeah, let's get into that.
Време е на трона, аз да седна с моята корона. Ти ще си слугата ми, ще правиш каквото аз ти кажа. Моя ред дойде да мачкам, здраво силно дави тъпча. Бурно влизам в играта, спирам времето. Колелото се върти, мале свят ми се зави. Спри земята, моля те, искам да сляза. Чак сърцето ме боли от присъствието ти. Като преброя до 3 да те няма. Хайдела у дома да играем, да викаме демони, искаш ли Да ти спия кръвта, да те пратя в ада при татко ми Сатана. Колелото се върти, мале свят ми се зави. Спри земята, моля те, искам да сляза. Чак сърцето ме боли от присъствието ти. Като преброя до 3 да те няма. За народа ти си срам, бия токи си до там. Аре бегай се от тука, че ме ришеш на катран. Майка ти е кът фазан, на баща ти кълпазан. Истината в очите да ти кажа, нямам срам. Колелото се върти, мале свят ми се зави. Спри земята, моля те, искам да сляза. Чак сърцето ме боли от присъствието ти. Като преброя до 3 да те няма. Като умрем върху нас, нека сложат отровна голяма дебела змия. С нея да бъдем погребани, тя ще ни прати в проклетите страшни места.
So that was Kolewoto by Gibo Baby. Woo! And also, I forget who their...
SK Medusa.
Okay?
SK Medusa.
SK Medusa.
They both, I guess, made the video together, and like the song is between them as well.
So we found Gibo Baby through the Queer Roma, Sofia Queer Forum had a Queer Roma installation, and yeah, that's how we got in touch with them, and we thought it was amazing.
They recently had their first live performance as well as part of that, because before that, you know, they were making their music and putting it on YouTube and like getting a lot of views, like millions of views. I was like, how did I not know about them before now? But yeah, so it's nice that they're getting into live performances as well. I can talk more. I love how like every time I watch it I get like more out of it. I feel like it's very deep and symbolic. Like I love how this idea that, you know, queer people are demonized, and then how great it feels to just like take on that role and play it in a video. And like saying like my dad Satan. It's great. Reminds me a bit of the what's his name?
Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah. With the stripping to Satan and like dancing in his lap. And also the other thing I was thinking, I forgot.
I want to talk.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like how everything is super DIY in Guido Baby, like the costumes, everything, the shots. So for me it's very empowering to see things like that, and to see that you can just have fun by doing your art. And yeah, actually from maybe a week I'm waking up every morning and I'm listening to Guido Baby, and this is how I'm passing my days. So Guido Baby, I love you, thank you very much that you exist.
Yeah, I think the trashy like aesthetics are definitely a huge part of like queer culture, and even the fact that they're in this door frame and you can see like all this trash in the background. Like I don't think that was like random. I think for me that's like, yeah, I'm here with all this trash, you know.
Yeah, I mean they have other videos in which they literally like dance in front of a trash bin.
Yeah. It's a huge part of like queer aesthetics, going back even to like John Waters and this super trashy like yeah, like queer films and like B cinema kind of.
But I also think here there's a double context of it being in the context of the Balkans and poverty and like Roma people being disproportionately affected by poverty and being surrounded by scenes like this more so than other places and people, and turning that into an aesthetic that you can actually like reclaim. And yeah.
Well, would anyone like to add anything? Or shall we move on?
Next up, we have. What's the full name of others?
Think of others.
Think of others.
As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. Do not forget the pigeon's food. As you wage your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who seek peace. As you pay your water bill, think of others, those who are nursed by clouds. As you return home to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep. As you express yourself in metaphor, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say, if only I were a candle in the dark.
Waiting for the connection. I think we're on. Hope everyone is okay. So, you were saying?
The title of the poem that I'm reading in that video is called Think of Others, and it's by Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. And I just really randomly found it on the internet and I thought it was amazing, and I was like, I'm gonna yeah, I wanted to make some kind of like a visual collection of images that can go with that poem. And yeah, but I just wanted to see what other people think about it.
How did you think of the ants? How did you think of the ants?
Well, I'd rather not say yet. I'd rather like maybe some other people say why they think I chose to show ants, and then if no one can think of anything, then I will say what's my interpretation of like yes.
But actually, I think the ants kind of resonated with me when I heard the poem, because I feel that ants are often very overlooked, even though they're really amazing creatures that do a lot for others too, and that do a lot for their community. So I think kind of this like duality of these topics, that ants are both overlooked and also like very strong community builders and thinking of others, I guess, really went well with the topic of the poem, and I really like that.
Yeah, I was thinking how the first 3 lines were like as you make your breakfast, then it was like as you wage your wars very casually, like, and then like as you pay your water bill, it was very like putting these 3 things next to each other and kind of going with what you were saying, the ants who seem kind of insignificant, and you know, waging a war somewhere else is kind of insignificant. I don't know, so it's nice to pay attention to the details and like really realize what's happening.
I really like the last scene with the moon and the spark, because when you think about it, we all look at the same moon. Like, no matter where you are, no matter what you are, and to be a human, you will still see the same stars, the same sun, the same moon, which kind of brings us to the part where we're all one big community. Like, and the least you can do is be a spark in others' lives. Like to spark a fire, perhaps, which will spark a revolution and bring change to the world, as we're supposed to.
I wanted to say something about that scene as well with the moon and the spark, because from like a cinematic point of view, I really liked how they did that it cut off quite suddenly the sound effects, and it was just this visual and this silence. And I feel like often we read beautiful poems as we're scrolling through the internet or reading a book of poetry, but you don't actually give yourself the time to think of others. And I feel like having that poem with those messages and then this space to just be confronted with those thoughts and just sit with those thoughts was really valuable and really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I really liked, I was not really thinking about this on purpose. I just found the light and I was like, cool, light. But then I was like, oh, it's moving really chaotically, and that kind of makes me think about how much anxiety I have about like my role on this earth and trying to help others, and how difficult that can be, and you're always feeling like you're not doing enough, or so it's very like erratic, and you're not really like sure of what you're doing, and if what you're doing is actually influencing anyone or doing any good. And yeah, I kind of identified with this very chaotic like lights going on. Huh?
Chaotic good.
Yeah, chaotic good, exactly. But the ants, the only thing I would like to say is that the ants are not a metaphor. Like, the ants are not a metaphor for humanity. Like, the ants have their own struggle in the same way that human beings have their own struggle, and all struggles are like important. And so one thing I really kind of resist in filmmaking in general is like this idea, not even just filmmaking, but like stories in general, the idea that like animals are metaphor for the human condition. So like even in something like Animal Farm, they are using like animals to say, oh yeah, this is like a metaphor or like an analogy for how human beings behave. But that only serves to erase the things that animals go through. So like generally I'm not a big fan of that. And then the other reason why I used ants was because I was in this village, Zabernovo, with Peter, and we're basically like refurbishing this house, and it's a really old house, and we opened these like wooden windows,
and a lot of these ants came out, and they actually freaked me out a lot because they're large, like really large ants, and I had never really seen such big black ants before. And my first reaction was to be like really scared of them, even though I'm a vegan for 6 years and I'm constantly like unlearning and trying to be better towards animals and trying to like, yeah, just like center animals in my head. I still struggle a lot, I guess, with insects especially, and yeah, they really freaked me out, and I was like, oh my god, we need to make them go away. And we looked up like some stuff, and it's on the internet, it said, oh, like ants really hate cinnamon. So we started putting cinnamon like all over the window, and they started freaking out a lot and like running in all different directions, and I was just looking at them, but they weren't like, our idea was that they would just leave the window and go make a nest somewhere else, but they wouldn't. They were just like, no, we live here. And not coincidentally, at the same time, this was around the spring, all over the news there was about Palestine. Like everywhere on the news I would open, it was about Palestine. It was like a huge surge in like the news, I guess, and like the media presence about what's happening in Palestine.
There were protests here as well.
There were protests here, and this was happening at the same time. And my mind started making these connections, and I was like, okay, first of all, I feel bad for what I'm doing to the ants. Like, they deserve to live here. This was their home. Like, no matter we decided to like open the window and do something to that house, they were living there. And these kinds of ants like live in wood all the time, like old wood. And I was like, this is their home, and they were fighting really hard for that home. I mean, they weren't just like, okay, we're gonna leave now because you decided that you want to be here. And there's no difference between that and what human beings have to go through in these situations like Palestine.
But it's still important.
Yeah, it's different, but it's not, I don't know, I made that connection in my head, so it's not like that's why I'm saying it's not a metaphor, like it's a real situation in which these ants are confronted with this thing and they are choosing not to leave but to fight for their home. So that was the reason why I included the, long story short, that's the reason why I put the ants there. Yeah. So be nicer to ants, because
they are people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think of others. It's really like about everyone. That's what the poem is about. Like the pigeons and everyone who lives. Like I really like that line where it's like nursed by the clouds, because I mean so many people who are living on the streets, but then again so many animals who are living outside as well and have to deal with these like weather conditions and things like that. And yeah.
Maybe we can take some last one-liners if someone wants to say something.
And the thing you were saying about how all humans, look up to the stars and the moon, it reminded me of this thing I saw on Instagram, which was like different animals who look at the stars and like use them for navigation as well. Interesting parallels.
Cool. Maybe we're ready for personal drama. Is that what it's called? personal drama. And just to add, at the ending, at the very last scene, it said, from real headlines from the newspaper, personal drama, which is the name of the film. So, a bit more.
The name of the newspapers
is
personal drama. Okay,
yeah,
I get it.
What'd you think?
It was terrifying. It was funny as well as terrifying. That was my first impression.
I really like that kind of obscure and uncanny imagery and sound generally for me. And the green sludge that was peeling from the trash can gives me very Lovecraftian vibes, and the Lovecraft kind of horror of the uncanny, unknown, weird creatures. And I like how everything looked very dirty. Trash everywhere. Yes, that was all very insightful, I know.
Yeah, no, I guess it's the discussion about like what is the role of the aesthetics and what it's trying to say. Like, are the aesthetics random or is it trying to say something, you know?
Can I say something? When we were like gathering a bunch of these videos, we were often asking ourselves the question like, is it appropriate? Like, does it fit? Does it not? And actually watching it this time around, I made a new connection that I think fits to the theme, which was a friend of mine, Vanessa, who I think is still...
No,
did she leave? She's left. Well, yeah, she was saying something about how she was feeling awkward and not good about sharing really traumatic news on social media right next to like empowering funny memes and things, and how doing that every day and seeing that every day and scrolling through that over and over and over again just makes everything like it numbs you to both, to the good and the bad. And I felt that way really strongly when there was this scene of like scrolling through the social media in the I Can Do Without Facebook section. And yeah, so I guess even in just art for art's sake and things that seem abstract, there's often like everyone makes their own connections to memories and thoughts and things that they've experienced, you know.
What you said actually reminded me of a documentary which was about a murder, like a father who killed actually his 2 children and his wife, and it was all done through social media feed, and it was on Netflix, and it was like top 10 or something. It was a lot of people watching it, and it just that's what I thought, like how numb we are to all these super traumatic events and how entertaining they are for us. So I thought that that's quite, yeah, I just made this connection.
I actually made a similar connection as you did, except that it reminded me of a book that I read recently. I hope that it's been translated into English because it's great. It's like an analysis by a very great philosopher, Ariadne von Schirach. It's an analysis of how the world state and also all of these paradoxes, like seeing traumatic events next to cute celebrity dog pictures on Instagram, is slowly but surely turning our society psychotic. And she made a very detailed analysis and diagnosis of our world's current state, and I thought it was very nice. And she also suggested how to get out of that state at the end of the book, so big recommendation. And yeah, it made me think of this too.
Also, what they said reminds me of another thing, like how everything is so fast-paced in the modern world that when like you are bombarded with lots of different things, and it's like postmodernism, the way that there is no no large narrative, no way we perceive reality as a whole. It's like some, as we said, psychotic and
all over the place fragments that make you go crazy. And I think there was Deleuze, I think, who said that neoliberal capitalism is like schizophrenia, something like this. I don't mean to like insult people who have these disorders, but like to illustrate how it works, the system. And, yeah.
Do you have a last comment over here? And then we have to...
Where?
It's me. I don't have a big thing to say. I just wanted, in the beginning, I thought, what does that film mean? And what are these aliens and what's going on? I was kind of weirded out. I was like, it's very abstract. But then I thought the aliens maybe represent alienation, because a lot of it was quite alienating. Maybe based on my experience of being alienated by the film, I was like, maybe it's about alienation and about how, like, when you scroll so much, or when you're reading stupid newspapers like this that just wanna, I don't know, my mom used to read loads of newspapers like this where it's about like, I forgot the words, but just meaningless, just shit, just things you can read on a train. And I thought how, yeah, you get so lost in this shit online. Yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I was also trying to figure out the aliens, like what they were about. They seemed very kind of passive throughout the film, like they were just kind of observing, or I guess they were even kind of taking on, like they were inside the bodies of these people and just living through them. And then at the end, there was this, they zoomed into the newspaper and it was like, I saw my wedding ring on someone else's hand. And then the next scene was like in the kebab shop, and one of the aliens was like reaching, and then you saw a ring on their finger, and then the alien behind, when they zoomed into their face, and they were like, they were just like, so shocked, because
there were rings everywhere.
I imagine like they saw this in the paper, and then they saw this ring on someone's hand, and they were like, wow, it's real. So it was like this contrast between kind of being very alienated in general, but by this influx of conflicting information, and then on the other hand, kind of hyper empathizing with something very random and specific. At least that's how I read it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just very mindful of the time that we have to go on with our, I think, last film.
Do you wanna sing some song for us?
No.
Okay. ora anche quello è morto.
Questo è terreno, questo è senza balze?
Ecco, senza balze.
Sempre più le dritte, senza balze?
Senza balze non lo so. È vero. Questo è senza balze.
Sta strage a faccia.
Conversation, let's start a good faith investigation as to what's happening behind these barbed wire fences to these poor baby cows.
She's good. She's good. She's in. We can close it.
Are we on?
Yep, we're on.
Are we on there?
Yeah.
Okay. Back. So it's
Can you speak up?
7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock. I don't know if we should have the discussion. We can have like a longer one, or just to say to the live people that this was all our time, right? No?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
We can just have the discussion and then end the live stream and then have a little bonus surprise.
Yeah, we have a bonus for the people live here, but maybe before we go on with the discussion, just in case for the people watching online internationally, I'll mention that they can, we would love to hear some feedback and comments, and so with the artists. And of course, if you enjoyed what we do, you can follow us and support us. There will be links somewhere, right?
No, we are Violetki.
Violetki Collective.
On Instagram, on Patreon, on
That's it.
TikTok.
On TikTok, we don't really post on TikTok, so I wouldn't really. We have one video on TikTok, so.
Yeah, you can help us keep doing more of this, and maybe with that I will segue into the discussion, because Haru's movie actually reminded me of our last autonomous cinema, which was actually a year ago, right? It it not? It was almost a year ago, and
it was last winter.
Yeah, and last winter when one of our movies was actually a collaborative piece between everyone who wanted to participate would send us short 1 minute or less video clips, which we turned into a collective video with people that had never met each other, and turned it into one big thing around the theme of magic. And watching this, it reminded me of our collaborative video, except it was like Haru made a collaboration with themselves.
Yeah, it's like this kind of a documentary, which is like a mosaic, I guess, and it's like seemingly random, but actually there are a lot of like recurring themes, and I think depending on who you are, there will be some images that stick with you the most. And like for me, it was very much this image of like these big imposing buildings, and like Versace and Prada, and like this huge imposing like cathedral, and then just this like representation of like the Anthropocene and capitalism, and then contrast that with like the fish. That like the fish really like stayed with me, and as well like the children protesting for the climate, and you keep having these like children and these fish coming back at you over and over again, and it's that's for out of all of this is what stays with me. But I think depending on who you are, different images will like affect you emotionally and psychologically more than others. Yeah. Someone want to say something?
I think people are a bit tired also. I know I am. I wish we could hear from the people watching us as well.
But yeah, just to remind you that this is the person who was rapping in the music video that we made. Yeah, so same person. Maybe you can see some themes as well, like connecting those two, the song and like this documentary.
There was that song that was playing, I Don't Care, I Love It, and then they got to the meat in the supermarket, which was on point.
Yeah, and of course, there's this whole book you can read about. It's called The Sexual Politics of Meat, which is really, really interesting. But the woman who wrote it, Carol J. Adams, she is an animal advocate and a feminist, and she's always making these connections between like animal liberation and feminism. And there was a lot of that in this documentary. On the one hand, like the image of like this naked person in the woods, I felt for me was like, because it was constantly being, it was like the naked person in the woods and then like animals, and it kept being like put together like that. And I think that was like trying to make a direct connection. But the other thing Carol J. Adams writes about a lot, especially on social media, and I think she even wrote a book about it, is like how we constantly in capitalism
have these like images of happy animals, and even like, yeah, just like images of like even just like a pig, let's say like Peppa Pig, like a super cute cartoon, and then you put that in like a butcher's shop where like you're literally selling like the body of a slaughtered pig. And we don't, I suppose not a lot of people notice that, or it kind of goes unnoticed. So yeah, there was some of that basically in the documentary. Just how strange that is.
I was kind of making, for the first time, kind of a different connection as well about just the food in general, and lately I've been thinking about how, you know, this same theory of the, like, Carl J. Adams talking about the disconnecting the food and the product from where it comes from and who it comes from, and like there was also these images of the like cauliflower and broccoli and just like produce as well, and like how we don't ask ourselves these questions for any of this actually, and it made me think about like learning about the different produce that comes from Israel, for example, that has also been actually a product of stolen land, and how people don't realize that like they buy some dates or I don't know, something, and it comes from the pain of many people actually. And through this globalization we're all so connected that we don't even grasp how much, you know, how much we're a part of what's going on somewhere so far away and on the lives of so many people and creatures, living beings. Yeah.
We have some newcomers.
Okay, maybe should just so they're not watching. Well,
Okay.
what are we doing now?
So we're wrapping up this conversation, but we would also like to show you one more thing, just to you guys, not to the people watching at home. For the people watching at home, I guess this is the end of it. And yeah, thank you people watching at home for tuning in, and sorry for all the technical difficulties. We tried really hard. Yeah, we get better every time. And yeah, please, everyone, don't forget about the rest of the days, the whole other festival. Like, it's a huge thing, and it's happening in so many different parts of the world. And yeah, it's worth tuning in for all of them, I think. They're all very different, very unique in their own way. So this was our version of it. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, it's cool. People can hear me. It's all good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because you mentioned in one of the films sometimes feeling this sense of helplessness about like it's so overwhelming. I got this feeling from the last film as well, how everything is just so overwhelming. There's so many things going on, so many things to think about and worry about. And actually, for me, art and these kind of events are a coping mechanism as well as some kind of solidarity and action, actually, about bringing these things to the forefront, talking about these things with other people, getting artists engaged with politics and liberation, and yeah, making these worldwide connections, which is like the first time we've been involved in something so big, and it's really means a lot. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.